Wonderful. So welcome everybody. It's lovely to have you along and well done for taking a half an hour out of your day. I know it's hard to find time to do something like this, but to take half an hour out of your day to learn some tips and tricks. And I'm going to teach you some things on how to take back control of your paper. And I'm not just talking about hard copy paper, I'm also talking about electronic paper. So basically anything that's coming into your computer is like an electronic piece of paper. So when we talk about the system itself, and then I'll give you the tips, it's really about both types of paper. And so, as I said, please put any questions, write them down, and we'll have a conversation about that afterwards, and we definitely can answer any of the questions that you have. I'm recording this so that we've got an option for anybody who might have missed it as well, so that we can make sure that they get to see the recording as well. So I'm going to do a few little things today. So the first thing is I'm going to talk a little bit about me, Sue. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey and why I do what I do and why I became an organizing mentor and why I actually like to teach people how to get more organized in all areas of their lives. I'm going to give you some organizing tips and mantras that you can take with you today and you can use forever. These are things that I really swear by, and I know that they're going to be useful for you. I'm going to do a little bit of an overview of the 6 paper flow stations, so about the whole paper flow system, to give you an idea of what it's about and how to deal with all that paper flowing into your life. And then there'll be a couple of really nice offers at the end as well. So that's what's going to be happening today. So let's start off by how I always start is, where is my accent from? Because what happens is, if you don't know where my accent's from, then the whole time you're focusing on my accent instead of actually listening to what I'm sharing with you. So you'll see a very big hint over there, of course, because that's an African elephant. And of course, I'm from South Africa. And we've been living here for 21 years. So it's a long time. And, you know, really absolutely love it here. And we feel totally blessed to be in this country, particularly at this time. So very lucky. So let me tell you a little bit about my journey. So I'm actually not naturally organized. Now, some of you will be able to relate to this because I don't have the organizing gene. I wasn't born with a gene. Now, I used to think, well, if you don't have this natural ability of organization, then you'll never get organized. But what happened was I actually attended a paper flow workshop, which is actually 9 years ago now, and I was blown away. Because I went to this workshop and I came home and all these beautiful tools, beautiful stationery things that I bought, and I had many because I am a stationery addict after all of these beautiful things kind of came up off the floor and onto my desk and into my cupboards, and I set up the system, which is still there, by the way, 9 years later. And I was so excited because I finally realized that it's not actually a talent, it's a skill to be organized. It's like anything else you can learn with systems and tools to get organized. So I got so excited about this paper flow workshop that I actually approached Marianne Benny, who wrote the book. And I said to her, look, I love this system. It's changed my life literally from one moment to the next. All of a sudden I'm organized. How can I share this with the world? And I ended up getting trained and mentored by Marianne. And in fact, she also wrote a book called From Stuff to Sorted, which is all about how to get any area in your home organized in 8 steps. So I trained on that as well. I no longer do decluttering, but I do definitely run workshops or one-on-one virtuals on decluttering to help you with that as well. But really my focus has been moved on to time management. And I like people to manage their time better in their physical space and their mental space. So I do a whole lot of stuff around time management, calendar management, email management, so dealing with your emails. And I'm currently actually writing a program on eFlow, which is all about how to deal with your emails and your inbox. And I also run sessions on goals, habits, mindfulness, happiness, all of those mindset areas to help people sort of get that area of their life in order and live their best dream life that they can. Lucky for me too, not currently, but I usually run Kiki K workshops as well. So I'm very lucky to be able to work in that beautiful environment, of course, as I'm a stationery addict, and get to share some amazing ideas with all of you. And I'm very excited that we've brought the Paper Flow program online now so that everyone can do it in their own time as a self-paced program. And, you know, we're there along with you, Marianne and I, in the program, but you can do it in your own time, which is wonderful. So that's a little bit about where I come from. Now let's talk a little bit about being disorganized. Okay, so how do you feel when you're disorganized? It's not a good feeling at all, is it? We often can feel overwhelmed. You know, maybe you feel out of control. I think that's definitely one of the ways we feel unhappy. Sometimes even embarrassed. You know, embarrassed about having people coming into your environment or seeing the chaos that is surrounding you. And so what we do, we don't want to feel these feelings. Okay, so I'm here to tell you that there's ways you can get away from that and actually feel good. Because when we're organized, we feel these amazing things. We feel in control, happy, successful, energized, on top of the world, confident, definitely, relieved, and clear-headed. Now, I love the clear-headed concept because out of order means inner calm. So when things are in order around us, we feel calmer inside. And I'm sure everybody can relate to that feeling. So, of course, we want to get more organized so that we can feel this way. And the main reason why we want to get more organized is because when we get our time back, we've got time to do the things we want to do. Spend time with our family, do our favorite hobbies, look after ourselves, all of those things, because we feel good and we're organized. So that's what we're here for today. Now, a couple of my mantras, my very favorite mantra around organization is this one. Being organized is not about perfection. It's about finding what you need when you need it. Now, the pursuit of perfection leads to procrastination. I'll say that again, particularly for the perfectionists on the call today. The pursuit of perfection leads to procrastination. So what happens is while we're waiting for the perfect tools and the perfect system or anything that's going to be perfect, we're going to be waiting a very long time because perfection is ultimately an illusion. And I want you to realize that when it comes to being organized, it's not about things being perfect. It's about finding the things you need when you need them. Now, how do we do that? Well, we have to have a home. So just like we live in homes, our things need homes. Our paper needs a home. Our emails need a home. Everything needs to live somewhere so that we can find it when we need it. Because if it doesn't have a home, after all, it is homeless. And when things are homeless, we cannot find them. So we need to make sure that we have systems in place and homes for all our things so that that is how we're going to be organized, become organized, and to stay organized. So really important for us to do that. Now, if you look at this desk, it may look familiar. Chaos. Things are all over the place. You might have piles of paper everywhere. And so basically what I'm saying to you is that when you look at something like the paper flow system, it's about finding homes for all of those things on that desk, finding homes for all of your paper so that when you're looking for something, you can find it. So that's what we need. We need the system and the tools so that we can get more organized. Now, before I talk a little bit about the system itself, I do want to share this with you. Treat paper with the respect it deserves. People say to me often, why are you so passionate about paperwork? It really is unusual for somebody to be passionate about paperwork. And I really believe that the reason I'm passionate about paperwork is I understand how important it is in my life and I have respect for it. So let's think about it. When is the very first piece of paper that comes into your life? Well, that would be your birth certificate, wouldn't it? And then it doesn't stop coming from there. You have a birth certificate, then you get your school reports, then you may be getting a uni degree, you may get married. For me, I've got a citizenship certificate. All of these things start to come into our lives. And they're really important pieces of paper. And these are the history of our life. This is the history of who you are, the history of your family. So shouldn't we respect that paperwork? Because really, it really is representing who we are. So that's the paperwork that I really believe needs respect. Then, of course, if you run your own business or you work for somebody, if there was no paper or information flowing through this business, would there be a business? Would you have a job? No, because if there were no invoicing, no purchasing, there weren't any emails coming in, you weren't filing things, all of that stuff means that there is something happening in your business, and literally that is the lifeblood of your business. And that's, again, why I believe we should respect paper. So let's look at paper differently. If paper work was called paper play, I'm sure we would deal with it very differently. Because when we hear the word work, it feels difficult. So let's start thinking of it as paper play and something that we can handle. So a few little principles around paper and information that flows into our lives. First and most important, it needs to flow. Paper flows. And what I mean by that, it's going to come in, it needs to move through, and most importantly, needs to move out of your environment. Because if we're not moving it out, what happens, it becomes clutter, because all that's happening is it's coming in and in and in, and that's when those piles start to build. So we need to have a system that moves it in, through, and out of our environment. Now, we need simple systems. Simplicity is the key. You know, when something is complicated or difficult, we tend to give up. So I really do believe in everything that I share with people is it has to be simple, because if it is simple, I know that I can guarantee it can work. And so that's why we need simple systems. And then, of course, we need the right tools. So, of course, they go hand in hand, the systems and the tools. Now, as I said, I had all the beautiful tools, and you might be able to relate to this. You may have all these amazing tools, but unfortunately, without the system, it wasn't working. So you need to have the two working together. Now, I'll ask you this question. How many different types of paper or emails do you think there are? Now, when I ask this, people will say to me, wow, I can't even begin to imagine how many, because there's so many emails that come into my life, so many pieces of paper on my desk, I couldn't tell you. Well, I've got good news. There's actually only two. And those two are action or reference. So there's only ever one of two decisions that have to be made. Do I need to do something with this piece of paper, or do I need to put it away somewhere? So when we look at paper flowing in, under action, you would have recurring actions, which are things that happen on an ongoing basis, regularly, recurring over and over again, or projects. So that's actionable paperwork. Then you would have the reference paperwork, which is stuff that you put away in reference folders. So I'll explain a little bit more as we go along. So remember, there's only ever one of two decisions to be made when you pick up a piece of paper or check an email, electronic piece of paper, just one of two decisions. Do I need to do something with you, or do I need to put you away somewhere? I find that such a relief when I discovered that. Now, of course, we do have the past, and we do need to pack up the past. Now, most people will say to me, well, when I've sorted out all this chaos in these piles of paper, I'm going to start a new system. But the thing is, you need to first start the system, and then the older paperwork can drip feed its way into the new system. Because the reason you haven't moved on from now is because you've been waiting to deal with this older paperwork. Now, I haven't got time to go into how to pack up your paperwork right now, because we've only got a small amount of time together. But in the online program, there's a whole bonus section just on this, about how to deal with your older paperwork, pack it up, and then move it back into your new system. Now, you'll also find out why there's a wine bottle in that image when you check that out on the online program. So let's talk a little bit about the paper flow itself. Now, you may be familiar with the program and with the system, and that you could have either read the book, maybe you've attended an organization workshop or a paper flow workshop with myself or Marianne in the past, or you may have never heard of the system before. But really all you need to know is that there's 6 basic stations with tools and systems that get you to move that paper in, through, and out of your environment. Now, the station number 1 is the incoming paper station. And the incoming paper station, what I really mean there is an in tray, somewhere for your paperwork to land. Now, of course, in your computer, you'd have an inbox, but this is the physical paper, which is in an in tray. Now, you need to have this in tray sitting somewhere where you tend to dump your mail. Now, people have 3 main places. They either dump their mail as they walk in at their entrance hall, the most popular one on your kitchen counter, or in your office. But have an in tray there. Now, this in tray needs also you need to tell everybody in your environment, whether it's family or business, that this is where paperwork needs to go when it comes into your environment. Now, a couple of little rules around the in tray. You'll notice there's a good job there. Now, what that really means is that you need to put a reward at the bottom of your in tray. The idea of this is that when you get there, there's something to celebrate. So the reward can be anything from a good quote, which is what I like to do, or you can have a coffee voucher, you could have a picture of your kids, a lovely poem, anything you want. But when you get to the bottom of that in tray, you can celebrate that you've got to the bottom of the in tray. You'll notice a date stamp. The date stamp it really is important for you to date stamp paper when it comes into your environment. Why? Because then anytime you pick up a piece of paper, you'll know exactly when it came into your environment, and if you haven't dealt with it, how long it's been sitting around, or when it needs to be dealt with. So a really good idea to date stamp top right-hand corner of your paper. The question mark. Well, you're going to start to talk to your paper. Now, we may talk to our animals, even some of us talk to our plants. I'm a bonsai person, so I talk to my plants. But now you're going to start to talk to your paper. And this is the question that I want you to please write down. What is the very next thing I need to do with you? This is the question that you're going to ask your paper. What is the very next thing I need to do with you? Because when you ask that question, you will get an answer and you'll know where to move it into its next home along the flow. So, for example, if I picked up a bill and I said, what is the next thing I need to do with you? What would it say? Pay me. That's right. And then it'll move on to bills to pay. So the question really helps you make that decision around those two decisions. Remember, do I need to action or do I need to reference, put it away somewhere? So that's why we ask the question, so we can move that piece of paper on. And the last image there you'll notice is a schedule. Now this is the secret to getting your paperwork done, because what gets scheduled gets done. And something you choose to do anytime, what will happen is you'll do no time at all. So unless you actually take the time to schedule and do each of these different stations and deal with your paperwork on a regular basis, you won't keep up with your paperwork. And it's always easier to keep up than catch up. So if you make sure that you're putting these different elements into your schedule and making sure you do them, then they will get done and you will stay on top of your paperwork. So let's go to station number 2. This is the recurring action. So remember I spoke about actionable paperwork and the recurring actions, things that happen over and over again. Now I honestly believe that this station number 2 is the missing puzzle piece from every other system that I've ever tried before. Because most people understand the concept of having an in tray and filing things away at a later stage that you might have to reference. But the idea of not knowing where to put paper that still needs to be actioned or processed, you need homes for the paper that still needs to be actioned or processed. And this is where they're going to live, in your recurring actions station. Now, we set up 6 recurring actions or 6 folders, which we really believe are the places where things need to live. And I will reiterate here again, everything I talk about here, these folders can be set up as soft copy on a computer. So you can use the system in both your computer and in hard copy. So let's just go quickly through these and I'll share a couple of things that will go into some of these folders. Now, the first one is bills to pay. So of course I mentioned before, what is the next thing I need to do with you? Pay me. Well, those bills will go into your bills to pay folder. And once a week, you'll set a time to pay your bills. The second one is claims to make. Now for me, this one is my favorite because this is where things live that never had homes before. And I'll give you an example. You go to the doctor, you pick up a reference for a doctor and you pick up a blood test. Now, generally, we never know where to keep those, but those are now going to live in a medical section in your claims to make folder. So when you're ready to go for the blood test or see that doctor, you just pick it up and off you go. Scripts would also live in there and any other invoicing around medical. Great, they've now got a home. Let's think about another one. Maybe you've picked up a ticket. Okay, you've got a ticket for something, a networking meeting, or you might be going to an event, for example, or a footy game, whatever it might be. This is where they would live, in a ticket section, so you can find them when you need them. Other little areas in this particular folder would be things like invitations, so you could find invitations when you need them. Have you ever not used a voucher and you've missed out because you missed the deadline? Well, that's where they would live. Vouchers would live inside your claims to make folder. It's a wonderful home for your claims. And of course, check it once a week to make sure that you don't miss any of your deadlines. The next one is correspondence to complete, or I like to call it an action folder. And the action folder is about all the things, that actionable paperwork that you need to do. So I'm going to give you an example of this. So say, for example, I pick up a tax return that needs to be signed. So the question, what is the next thing I need to do with you? It's going to say, sign me. And then I think, hey, you know, I'm going to be seeing my accountant on Friday. So guess what? I'm going to put that into my action folder. And in my action folder, I break it down into Monday to Friday so that I don't have all these actions to do at once, but I actually break them into days. So I'm going to put, on Thursday, I'm going to put in that signed document so that I get it done before I see my accountants on the Friday. So great way to deal with your actions, Monday to Friday. Contacts to enter would be anything regarding business cards or any kind of data that you want to keep into your database. Items to read, great one to have because we're often thinking like we'd like to read more, but we're not. But if you make time once a week to read, you will read. There's a great section on that in the actual program about how to use a reading bag and making sure you get your reading done. And then items to file, the dreaded items to file. If you're doing it on a regular basis, once a week, you'll stay on top of your items to file. Now in the program, there's a lot more explanation on each of these, and you can really understand how to use these on a regular basis. So those are your recurring actions. The next one, of course, is this paper flow station number 3, which is projects. That's the other side of actionable paperwork. Now, projects are the fun part of paperwork. This is a paper play part, I always say, because here you're organizing parties or you're doing a renovation. For a business, you might be doing a proposal, so it's an exciting part of your business. So this is really important paperwork that you want to be actioning. So you need to schedule time and make sure that you make time for your projects. So that's actionable paperwork. The next section, of course, is paper flow station number 4, which is your reference station. So now we've dealt with the action paperwork, and that then has to be moving into your reference where it gets kept. Now, if you have a look at that image, you'll notice that I've got files like investments, health, utilities, banking. So those are the kind of big folders around household folders, occasionally referenced information that you need to keep. You'll see there's warranties and manuals. There's a great section on how to deal with all your warranties and manuals in the online program itself, how to deal with small receipts, for example. So there's lots of different types of reference that you have. You have quick ready reference, which is stuff that you reference on a regular basis. So, you know, we're talking about, say, for school, you would have school lists, tuck shop lists, etc. If in a business, you might have courier details and you would have details of your clients, maybe your products and your brochures, all that kind of stuff. Things that you need to reference on a regular basis and quickly. Your diary is one of those things as well. Then we've got important documents, and I want to mention important documents because remember how I spoke about the history of your life? Well, I want you to make sure that that history of your life is in one folder. All your important documents need to come into this one folder. And if you only take one thing away from me today, please do this and go and get that one folder and make sure all your important documents are in one place. So in an emergency, you can pick that up and off you can go and you can take that folder. Of course, recommend having a certified copy in the cloud and in another destination as well. So that's important for you to have important documents. But setting up all of these folders, there's a whole section on this in the online program on how to actually set up the folder, how to do the front covers and the tabs and make sure that they all work, and even how long you should keep the paperwork inside each folder. So that's all you need to know around your reference paperwork. Number 5 is your archiving station. Now I've written there historical or hysterical. Well, historical is about the stuff you have to keep. So we're talking about the stuff like your tax returns, etc., that you have to keep for a certain amount of time, and always check with your accountant how long. Hysterical is the stuff that you want to keep. So it's the emotional stuff. It's all your keepsakes or your memorabilia that you would like to be keeping. Now, of course, we'd like to keep it all, but unfortunately, we don't always necessarily have the space for all of that stuff. So we need to set some limits. Again, there's a whole section on limits in the program itself, but I will say this to you, that there's 3 types of limits. There's limit by date, which is time bound, which usually works really well with paperwork. Then there's limit by number, how much you can have of something. Choose a number and stick to that number. And then there's limit by space. How much space do you have for something? And you can only fill that space. So those are the limits that you can set for yourself. Now, if you want to get more organized, limits literally will set you free. So if you set some limits around what you have, you will notice a big difference in being more organized. Now, the last station, of course, is the exit station. Remember, in, through, and most importantly, out of your environment. Now, under my desk over here, I've got a recycle bin. I have a shredder for anything confidential. Remember, always shred anything with your confidential information. And you'll notice an out bag, which sits on my door. Now, the out bag concept is that things need to move out of your environment sometimes. What's an example? Well, maybe a friend left a Tupperware at you and you want to return it. Hey, what about that signed document for my accountant? That would live in there, wouldn't it? I like to keep some bags for shopping because I often find I leave those behind. And at the moment, maybe a mask as well. So The out bag, the concept of the out bag is that you make sure that stuff moves out of your environment, so it's not hanging around at that front door. So in, through, and out. So those are the 6 simple stations that can help you deal with every piece of paper or information that comes into your environment. They are very simple to set up. And the great thing about it is that because it's simple and easy, if you fall off the rails for 5 minutes, you can always get back on. The whole idea is that it's easy to get back onto the system and make sure that it's always working for you. So what's next? Well, I always talk about the 80-20 rule. Now, the 80-20 rule in this circumstance is 80% of you will leave today and do nothing. And 20% of you will do something. The difference between an 80%er and a 20%er is action. So you need to take action. If you're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, Einstein said that that is the definition of insanity. So if you want to change what you're currently doing and you want to get back in control of your paper and your information, then you need to do something, change and start a new system. And the tools for that system are the Paperflow program. And we're really excited that it's a program now because you can really do it in your own time. And it's only $197. So it's under $200 investment of your money. And I really believe that even just 1 hour a week for the next 6 to 8 weeks will get you up and running with the system. And if you wanted to do it quicker, and I know one of the ladies who's bought it already is nearly, in 1 week, she's already got up 4 of the stations. So it's up to you. Now, I can guarantee that the system works, but you need to work it. But for your own peace of mind, I'm offering you a 14-day money-back guarantee because I really do believe in the system, but I want you to feel comfortable if you commit to doing the system. Now, because you're on the webinar today, I'm going to offer you some extra things. So it's been great. The launch has been amazing and people are loving the program. And because you come on the webinar and you take the time to be with me, I'm offering 2 extra things. If you do purchase the program within the next 48 hours, I'm offering a free Paperflow book. And it's great to get the book because they're actually out of print and it's a nice extra add-on to have with the program. But I'm also offering you 30 minutes with me one-on-one on any of your organizing issues we can discuss, and that's valued at $100 on its own. So I would love to get you guys on board and on the program. And I know from all of the results and the testimonials I've had so far, people are loving it because it really is simple and easy to set up. So come along with me on this journey and let me show you how to get more organized around your paperwork. A little extra thank you is I'm also going to send you in an email after the session some extra free tips just because you made the effort to spend some time with me today. So I'd love to see you at some of my other workshops, and I'm also offering you $5 off on that, and I will send that through to you as well in the email. But if you're not following me on any of my socials, please do, and let's stay in touch, and I'm looking forward to taking you on your organizing journey.